The next error that we are going to talk about is error of original entry, which is an error that occurs when a transaction is entered with an incorrect amount. This means that the original value of the transaction that is being entered in the books of accounts is wrong. For example, you have paid electricity bill of 1500 by cash. So you see the correct amount of this transaction is $1,500. Electricity account has been debited and cash account has been credited by $500. The amount that we have recorded from this for this transaction is $500, which was supposed to be $1,500. So you see the amount that we have entered is incorrect. Hence, this is an error of original entry. Now, before we go on, in order to correct this transaction, we need to understand this part. We need to remember, if the actual amount is greater than the recorded amount, we need to repeat the journal entry with the difference amount. If the actual amount is less than the recorded amount, we need to reverse the journal entry with the difference amount. So this case goes with the first one. The first one says if the actual amount is greater than the recorded amount. Now the actual amount is 1500. The recorded amount is $500. So the actual amount is actually greater than the recorded amount. We need to repeat this journal entry with the difference amount. Now what's the difference? Since the actual is 1500 and recorded is 500, the difference is $1,000. So in order to correct it, we need to repeat this journal entry, which means we are going to debit electricity account by the difference amount, which is $1,000, and we are going to credit cash account by $1,000 as well. Now you see why we have done this. First of all, the original amount was 1500. So we were supposed to include 1500 on the debit side of electricity account, and we were supposed to include 1500 on the credit side of cash account. Instead of doing that, we have included 500 on the electricity account's debit side and 500 on the credit side of cash account. Now since we have already entered 500, we do not need to enter the $1,500 as a whole, which is why we need to enter the difference amount. Since 500 is already there, we just need to add 1000 to that in order to ensure that the entire value becomes a part of these two accounts. So we have included $1,000 in the debit side of electricity account, where 500 was already debited before. And the same thing has also been done with the cash account, where we have credited $1,000 and the $500 was credited before, so both of them add up to become $1,500. So this is how we correct an error of original entry in case the actual amount is greater than the recorded amount. And the narration is going to be correction of error of original entry. Payment of $1,500 incorrectly recorded as $500. We have just mentioned the name of the error that we have corrected, and what we have actually done, the error that we have made, has also been mentioned. However, there's another part to this. Let's say we have paid electricity bill of $500 by cash. Electricity account has been debited and cash account has been credited by $1,500. So the original amount in this case is $500, but we have recorded $1,500 in both accounts. So this goes with the second scenario, which says if the actual amount is lower than the recorded amount, reverse the journal entry with the difference amount. So the actual amount is $500 for this transaction, and $1,500 is the amount that we have recorded. So the difference that we get is $1,000 negative. This negative sign gives you an indication that you need to reverse the original journal entry. Now, why do we need to reverse? The reason is that we were supposed to enter $500 on the debit side of electricity account and on the credit side of cash account. So instead of doing that, we have included $1,500, which means that we have recorded $1,000 extra. Now, in this case, since we have recorded extra, we need to subtract or omit this extra value in order to make sure that the genuine or the original value has been recorded in the books of accounts. in the electricity account and in the cash account. So in order to subtract, we need to reverse the transaction or reverse the entries so that the extra amount or the difference amount that we have recorded gets omitted. So in this case, we have debited cash account by $1,000. Why? We were supposed to credit cash account by $500. Instead of that, we have credited cash account by $1,500. So in order to omit the $1,000 extra, we need to reverse this transaction. So cash account was supposed to be credited, which now needs to be debited. Reverse. So the same treatment will take place for the electricity account. Electricity account will be credited by $1,000 since electricity account was debited. To reverse this, we need to credit the account and the difference amount is $1,000. And in this case, the narration is going to be correction of original error of original entry, payment of $500 incorrectly recorded as $1,500. Moving on to error of transposition, which is an error that occurs when the numbers of the amount are interchanged while recording. For example, the original value of the transaction was $13, but instead of recording $13 in the accounts, you have recorded $31. What you have done, you have by mistake interchanged the numbers and therefore the value has changed. For example, we have a transaction which says we have paid electricity bill of $420 by cash. The original value, as you can see, is $420. Electricity account has been debited and cash account has been credited by $240. So the amount that we have recorded is actually different from the amount that is included in the original transaction. We were supposed to record 420 in the electricity account and cash account, but instead of that we have recorded $240. So what we have done is we have interchanged 4 and 2 and made this value from 420 to $240. So this error is pretty similar to the error that we have just talked about, which is called error of original entry, which takes place when the incorrect amount has been recorded. So we have learned this back while we were talking about error of original entry, that if the actual amount is greater than the recorded amount, we need to repeat the journal entry with the difference amount. If the actual amount is less than the recorded amount, we need to reverse the journal entry with the difference amount. Now the actual amount was $420. We have recorded $240. So we need to record extra. So we are going to use the first rule, which says if the actual amount is greater than the recorded amount, we need to repeat the journal entry with the difference account. So the actual amount is 420, the recorded is 340, which means we need to record $180 again in both of these accounts since the transaction is not complete yet. We have entered only $240 instead of $420. So we are going to repeat this transaction by debiting electricity account with the difference amount, which is $180, and by crediting cash account by $180, the difference amount. And the narration is going to be correction of error of transposition, payment of $420 incorrectly recorded as $240. It's pretty similar to error of original entry, except the difference is that in this case, the original value and the incorrect value will be interchanged. The numbers will be interchanged for the values.